Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you had the opportunity to have a quick break, stretch the legs. We're in the home stretch of the APAC region, and we have two more lightning sessions to go. And it's my great privilege to introduce Kathy Berkridge back to the PMO Leader Conference. So thank you, Kathy. Kathy was here with us last year, and very, very insightful. And you lots of love hearts and lots of clapping coming up on the screen, Kathy. So I think our audience can remember you. So quick introduction. Kathy is going to talk to us speaking on reporting to senior stakeholders. From a bit of a bio perspective, agile professional with 30 plus years in the IT and software development, provides project management, business analyst and agile training and consulting work. International speaker on agile mindset and project execution, helps teams to improve collaboration, innovation, and customer value, and passionate about enabling people and organisations to thrive. And just as a bit of a plug too, Kathy features on the Agile Ideas podcast that was undertaken with Fatima, episode number 120, and you can listen to it at any time you like. So over to you, Kathy. Thanks again.
Thanks so much. And it's a pleasure to be back at the PMO Leader Conference once again. And again, talking about another subject I'm very passionate about, and something that is critical and absolutely imperative we get right in any environment, in any project, in any PMO, and that's stakeholder engagement. So it's something that fascinates me, and I did a little bit of research about stakeholder engagement, and the first thing I looked at is what's the definition. Interestingly enough, there are multiple definitions, but I trusted our good old friend Wikipedia with the one that I've brought up on screen. Stakeholder engagement is the process by which an organisation involves people who may be affected by decisions it makes or can influence the implementation of its decisions. And I thought, that's an interesting definition, and I'm not sure that I 100% agree with it. Is it a process? Is it step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and then we're done? I don't think it's a process at all. I think it's an ongoing activity that's done all day, every day. Certainly, if you want stakeholder engagement to be done effectively, you need to put attention to it every single day. In fact, every day in my world, when I'm working on a project, on any initiative, that's the first thing I look at is my engagement plan. So we need to make sure that we go beyond just involving people, but we really want to make sure that these stakeholders that we have are willingly able to and want to work with us on the projects and the initiatives that we have and interact with us on a basis that is collaborative and cooperative, not just because they have to. So I thought much more about this, and I looked at some tools and principles. And whilst there's many different challenges, such as lack of time, lack of understanding of purpose, lack of motivation, lack of understanding their needs, we need to really think about some core principles of stakeholder engagement. None of these are earth-shatteringly new. For me, the biggest one is the one in the bottom right corner, which is listening, using these things on the side of our head. If we don't listen effectively and remain present, our stakeholders are going to be very quickly disengaged. But we also need to ensure that we plan effectively. That means to do the planning, we must do some analysis of our stakeholders and, of course, identify them early and work with them often. We've got to find what's in it for them and recognise and acknowledge their experience, their efforts and their contribution that they're making to our work. We've got to provide clear vision and purpose and build relationships by building on those pillars of trust and rapport. These things are all interesting things that are said all over the place, but how do we do that? It means using a human-to-human approach, understanding it's not a concept, it is a person, living, breathing, feeling, emotional person that we're dealing with. So as I looked at tools and techniques for stakeholder engagement, I really didn't find a lot. I mean, there's a lot of verbiage out there, but how do we make sure we can do our stakeholder analysis and planning effectively? So as it so happened, I was working on a lean canvas, or I had one near me, and I thought to myself, if I replace these headings, I reckon I can come up with a bit of a template for us to brainstorm either individually or collectively as a team how to engage our stakeholders. So I'm going to walk you through this tool, which I hope maybe might be something you can use to get be more successful and effective stakeholder engagement in your work. So let's look at the canvas. Yes, it looks like a lean canvas with different headings. So effectively there are nine areas for us to think about to plan and analyze our stakeholders. So along the top, you can see we put our stakeholder name, their role, and we know who this stakeholder is, analysis is all about. So the first element is to understand them. Who are they in the world? What are their needs? What's their attitude to it? What do they see in their world? Not just what's happening in the project, but what's happening in their department and maybe what's happening in their outside of work life. Who do they work for? What's their background? And just generally know them as a person. It is a human to human thing. So who are they as a human? What are their likes and dislikes, their passions, their fears, those kinds of things. Once we know a bit more about them, we start thinking about what are they needing, the WIFM, what's in it for me, but from their point of view. What are their requirements? Are there alternatives? What issues do they face? What frustrates them? What delights them in regards to the work? And most importantly, that last one, what do they need from me? How can I help them? No matter what role I'm playing, whether I am a BA or a Scrum Master or a project manager or just a PMO consultant, what do they need from me to make their life and their work easier? Of course, we've got to figure out, what does success look like? So what are their goals and objectives? So what do they want to achieve in regards to the work that we're doing with them? And of course, their own personal goals. What's valuable for them? If we're thinking about a project, what do they need from the project? And how will they measure success? And importantly, if we don't hit these objectives, what's the consequences? Then we make sure we can understand a way that we can show them the progress towards their goals and track on it for them. So we mindfully think about these aspects. Of course, stakeholder engagement doesn't happen in a vacuum. There's a context, a project context, a business context. So what is that context of this engagement? What's the nature of the work? What expertise are they bringing from the table? And what kind of information are they going to be contributing? We might also consider their authority levels, history and scope of work that they're involved with. So we've got a clear picture of this is the kind of container around which we're engaging this stakeholder. Moving along to activities. Now we start thinking about, well, what kinds of interactions am I going to have? Those meetings, those workshops, those emails, reports, etc., etc. What kind of interactions, the frequency, and of course, what interviews or other discussions will we have? And will there be group or kind of workshopping activity and meetings? Who else might be involved? That last line is critical to consider and talk to your stakeholder about. How much time am I expecting? Am I expecting an hour a week or an hour a day, or is it barely minutes per fortnight? So we can be clear about those expectations and discuss them clearly with our stakeholder. We started with them, now we move to me. Oh, sorry, outcome. My apologies. I forgot one more. Outcome. Now, the outcome in this sense is the outcome of the engagement, not the outcome of the project or outcome of the initiative. What results are they expecting from me? What artifacts do they need from me? What level of formality is needed from me? And how do I maintain transparency around what's happening with the work and the engagement itself? Moving forward, we now need to consider, what am I bringing? We all come to stakeholder engagement with our own baggage, our own perspectives, and our own background. So now it's time for us to deeply think about, well, hang on a minute. What notions and preconceived ideas do I have about them? What history do we have? And what opinions do I have of them, true or false? What's my attitude and what's my thoughts? if I can't be visible to myself about what this stuff is, I'm bringing this unconsciously to the table in this engagement. So now I need to consider them in an open, mindful way so I can analyze, are these going to impede or cause risks? Which bring us to the next section of our canvas. What are the risks to this stakeholder engagement? So what are the problems that could happen? Would there be areas of conflict or misunderstanding? What could jeopardize this engagement, including my own attitude? Maybe I worked with Steve last year and it was a delight. So now I'm expecting it to be perfect again and actually misunderstand that things have changed. So what could affect this engagement? So using the analysis of the other 7 areas of the canvas, I can now put together almost like a risk matrix of the things that could go wrong that would affect successful stakeholder engagement. Now that we've done all the hard work, we can now put together a clear engagement plan. Now, you might use a bigger spreadsheet to do this, but really it's an area for us to clearly note down what tools and techniques am I going to use for engagement? How do I build rapport and trust with that stakeholder? What approach am I going to use? And most importantly, what am I going to do to reduce, avoid, and mitigate those engagement risks? It helps me prepare clearly what preparations and planning I must complete before our interactions, and how do I remain mindful of my thoughts, perceptions, and opinions of the stakeholder, and make sure that they're not clouding or affecting the stakeholder engagement process. So when we complete a stakeholder engagement canvas, it's typically full of basically sticky notes or ideas. They're only meant to be dot points. And of course, you can use this canvas if you've got a team, like I had at one of my agile teams. We had a whole team that were looking at how we're going to best engage one of our product owners. So we use it as a team as a brainstorming technique for us to be clear about how do we best engage together with a evasive and difficult stakeholder that we did. And that's how I first used this canvas. I'm not quite sure how we're going to share the slides. I think they're available for you. That means you'll have the information that I've just shown you about the canvas and what the elements are. And of course, you can always get in touch with me, Kathy Burkage. I'm always happy to connect on LinkedIn. I'm not on any other social media. There's my email and my address. My website's way out of date, so don't bother with that too much. But do find me on LinkedIn, do get connected with me. And it's been an absolute pleasure sharing my tidbit about stakeholder engagement with you. Hopefully it will be helpful for you as well.
Kathy, you're an absolute gem. Thank you so much for all your insights. Very keen to get my hands on that board that you've just put together. Once again, thanks for your time, and we'll definitely send out your information to all the participants, which these sessions are recorded anyway, so your contact details have gone out all across the globe. So thanks again, Kathy.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.